Well, these frustrations have been building for many months now, but have certainly cranked up by a fair few notches in recent days. Today, a letter from 5 Labour MPs in Manchester tells the Prime Minister and the Chancellor that they will not support this city being put into the top tier. They say the evidence is not there to close pubs, and they say doing this way will mean more parties, more gatherings in people's homes, while also devastating Manchester's economy. Similar concerns also being raised by a Tory MP in Greater Manchester. Concerns in other parts of the north too, but it's not really about whether something needs to be done, it's more about where the decisions are made. Open now, but for how long? The answer is about as clear as the screens they fitted between each table at Boyce's Barrel.
We don't know whether we're going to be open tomorrow and next week. Having worked at much reduced capacity for the last 5 weeks.
You must be frustrated.
Scared for the future. I'd love to see this place survive. I don't know whether it will.
That's the point that we're at. With COVID-19 spreading rapidly in several areas of the north, some hospitals say they're feeling the pressure. England's Deputy Chief Medical Officer has warned this is a tipping point. But the latest changes to the local lockdown system in England come after weeks of extra restrictions in some towns and cities. On Parliament Street in Cone, the words held high by Liberty no doubt speak for many at a time when frustrations outnumber answers. Tomorrow, the Prime Minister will announce the details of the new 3-tier local lockdown system. But all weekend, a very public disagreement has been playing out. Some leaders in the north have criticised the new wage support scheme, which will mean 2/3 of pay, which is lower than with the national furlough scheme. It is hard to overstate the level of frustration and anger from some. One MP said to me, if this were happening in London, there'd be anarchy. All of it not helped by the daily newspaper front pages with details that leaders here haven't been told.
The Chancellor's put in place an unprecedented package of support for people, and we can't do everything. We're in a severe recession. The national debt is rising very fast. But I think most people would see the measures that he's put in place as very reasonable, a safety net for those who are going to find this winter very challenging.
Mentally moving chairs around, trying to make sure all the tables are socially distanced.
Making soft play COVID secure means every hour it's everyone out for another deep clean.
To be honest, if we don't get October half term, it's going to be really grim for us and loads of other play centres like us.
While pub closures make front pages, Nicola's been searching the internet for information about what's likely for her business.
It just feels like we're the last to know.
Add to that 2 daughters at universities in Greater Manchester, one of them in quarantine in her halls.
The moments where you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you can't get back to sleep because you're thinking, how are we going to be able to afford to pay the £4,000 in accommodation costs that we need to cover both the girls up until Christmas? But these are grim times for everyone in our sector and hospitality and leisure in general.
Well, joining me now is the Labour Mayor of Liverpool, Joe Anderson. He's been speaking to Downing Street this afternoon, and Glenn Sanderson, who's a Conservative and leader of Northumberland County Council. Joe Anderson first, how hopeful are you that you've extracted enough extra money from Number 10 to enable you to back these new local lockdowns?
Yeah, I think, look, we've had conversations all over the weekend, Friday, Saturday and today, and we are still actually in discussions even now, this evening, behind the scenes, things are still going on. You know, our Metro Mayor, Steve Rotherham, myself, the other leaders here in Liverpool have had conversations with officials, and we've pointed out, you know, that we need support, and we need not just physical and financial support, but we need support from government in terms of collaboration, talking to us, telling us what we need to do together to actually bring this virus under control. And I think, you know, the meetings today and over the weekend have progressed. They've listened. In fairness, we've made it very clear what we feel we need, but also they've made it clear that they need to do things to try to bring the virus under control, and we both agree on that. So I think we have moved progress. There'll be further discussions, as I said, as we speak, still taking place, and I know there'll be an announcement made later on this evening in the morning about how we are progressing. But I think it's been productive, and there's been a movement, and I think an understanding of the challenges that face Liverpool and the North and the whole of the Northwest.
So hopeful of a deal, I could say. I know discussions are still ongoing, but would you put it that strongly, hopeful?
Yeah, I am hopeful that we'll be able to. And as I said, all credit to the officials in Downing Street and our officials here within the city region have been working extremely hard to get this deal. And as I said, it's been frank and sometimes a bit taut, but nevertheless, they've accepted the points that we've put across. And I'm delighted to say that, we think we can at least pull together a package that both of us can support. Clearly, it's not going to be totally enough, that's for sure, but it's better than what we originally had.
OK, Glenn Sanderson, it sounds like there's some kind of deal being put together in Downing Street. Would you be able to support new local lockdowns, or is it not about the money for you, but the principle of depriving people of liberty?
Well, I think at the end of the day, this is very difficult for government, it's very difficult for us as leaders, but it's actually more difficult for the people concerned. And up in the north, and the real north, we have got restrictions now that are really difficult for people. And I think if we tried to impose further stricter conditions in a blanket way, people would not conform to those, and that would actually have the opposite effect of what we're trying to do. At the end of the day, we must take people's health as our top priority, but we must take people with us. So
is it not reckless, though, to be opposing further blanket lockdowns, as you put it, given the hospitals are filling up, and you heard Jonathan Van Tam's warning today that history is in danger of repeating itself?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, public health officials and experts will guide us all the way, and we will follow that advice. But at the end of the day, up in North Northumberland or in southern Durham, perhaps, you've got much fewer cases than you have in the cities. And people there rely on their tourism, the forestry and farming and so on. And people are screaming out for their voice to be heard in this. Right. So I think it's really important we do listen to people and do what's right, reasonable.
Joe Anderson, what extra support do you think you might get from Number 10 to help the contact tracing on the ground?
Well, I think that's an important point, because government now accept that we need to work together to actually have a better track and trace system, and that needs not just financial support but physical support. We've made that case. And as I said, I think government were very receptive to that. We gave examples of how in the city region, in particular here in Liverpool, we've been able to target and tackle particular peaks and spikes in the coronavirus. And we were very keen and interested to hear how we did that. So as I said, I think the discussions were productive today. I think, it was a question of both understanding how we can work together. And that's what we've been calling for: more collaboration, more joined up thinking to actually work together.
Including, including possibly collaboration with the military on the ground, is that possible?
Well, I don't think, we have had discussions about the military being engaged with us and working with us, but it's not troops and boots on the streets. It's about the logistics. It's about the back office. It's about working with our public health officials and the local authority officials here in the city. And that's no bad thing. Right. And if we get that and that helps us do a better track and trace system, then I welcome that.
Glenn Sanderson, should local authorities have been put more in charge of the test and trace system earlier? Has this been pretty shambolic from Number 10, as the polls seem to suggest?
No, I don't think it has been shambolic. I think there have been lessons learned, and I think we're working together much better now. And if we can continue that, then we will get there and we'll make real progress.
Joe Anderson, briefly, it looks like Manchester might continue to oppose these local lockdowns. You might back them. Is that an issue that, anyone will end up just switching from one city to the other?
No, I think what it actually does is it proves that there's nuanced differences in terms of the virus, what's caused the virus, the population differences, a whole host of different things that have to be taken into consideration and taken into account. As Mayor of Liverpool, working with the City Region Combined Authority Mayor Steve Rodham and the other leaders, we know what we need here, and that's what we've been trying to negotiate.
Joe Anderson, Glenn Sanderson, thanks very much for joining us.